All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard here to the Sports Talk Nation. Michael Cohen here with you. Welcome aboard. We have a really good show for you today as we have a lot to discuss. Training camp is here, but of course we have to lead things off with one of the more interesting stories of the day, at least for the New York Jets is concerned, because for a very long time we have asked for this uniform to come back, and now here it is. The classic jerseys are on their way back. They're going to come back this year, but only for one game, which kind of kills the joy of having the uniform back. But still, it's one game this year. It's going to be the alternate uniform, and it will be against the Buffalo. The Jets will wear them against the Buffalo Bills at home in the Meadowlands on October 14th, a Monday Night Football game. That's going to be absolutely crazy. I expect the fans could go nuts. So. Fans have been calling for this uniform. I have been calling for this uniform. Here it is. This, of course, being the old uniform that the Jets used to wear regularly from 1998 to 2018. Never thought the Jets should have left the uniform. They should have always stayed in it. Should have still be their permanent uniform. But here it is, coming back as a retrofit. Really, the only difference that I noticed, obviously, between this version of the classic uniform and the one that we had been used to for the last 20 years, is the fact that the green a little bit brighter. Obviously, there's no patch on the left shoulder, top left shoulder. Other than that, it's the same uniform, and it's back, and it's great to see. And we'll see it, obviously, in Week 6 when the Jets take on the Bills on Monday Night Football. Would I like to see it for a couple more games? Absolutely. Hey, if the Jets go out there and they beat the Bills this year with that uniform on, I think the Jets should find a way to sneak that uniform a couple more times into the rotation, if you will. So, look, if you're a Jet fan, as far as uniforms are concerned, you have to be ecstatic. You get the 80s Sack Exchange uniform now is the full-time uniform, both green and in white. And now you get the classic uniform back in the rotation. Granted, only the road jersey this time for one game here to start the 2024 season. So, That's good. That's good news to start here for the Jets as they begin training camp here in 2024, and a lot of storylines to follow as we get ready for training camp. One thing that I found very interesting, apparently USA Today, and I don't know. I hate when people do this. I hate predictions. I hate people making projections of what things may come. But this is what happens sometimes. USA Today made a projection. They had the Jets going 12-5 and gulp, taking on and topping the Green Bay Packers in the Super Bowl, dare I say. Look, I'm not going to jump on that bandwagon. I'm not going to go crazy about it. It's a prediction, what it is. Let's just get through it. Let's enjoy this season. I can't stand big-time projections like that. The AFC is as tough as it gets. Kansas City's the back-to-back Super Bowl champions. They are the team to beat. You got the Bengals, the Bills. Dolphins are still a good team. Ravens are right up there as well. So I'm not going to, all of a sudden throw eggs in a basket and jump on the USA Today story saying, yeah, let's do it. This is what's going to be. Nah, I'm not going to jump there. Let's get to the playoffs first, folks. I know you got the former MVP quarterback there, Aaron Rodgers. Hopefully he'll stay healthy this year. That's one of the keys to this season. But I'm not going to go crazy about the USA Today projection that came out this afternoon. So let's go right into some of the big keys here. Obviously, the first key, I just kind of hinted on it just a second ago. As we get ready for training camp, the biggest story that everyone's going to be talking about is number 8 in your playbook, number 1 in your hearts, and that is Aaron Rodgers. What is his status going to be, and can he stay healthy for the full season coming off of the Achilles tendon tear? All eyes will be on him for the second straight training camp. I was out there, of course, last training camp, and the place went absolutely ballistic when Rodgers came out to practice for the first time. I'm sure the reaction is going to be very, very similar, but even with more attention to how he is on his legs and how he's able to move around the pocket and make plays happen. And obviously, this is all going as we count down towards the big game to start the season in San Francisco. At least it's on grass this time on Monday Night Football to start the year. But that will be story number 1. Can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy for a full 17-game season at the age of 40? If he is able to do that and is able to play well, then yes, the Jets could be very well a playoff team here in 2024. The other big storyline is going to be this. And this, I remember a couple weeks ago when we had all that hubbub over Aaron Rodgers missing mandatory minicamp, and there was another player, of course, who was missing mandatory minicamp as well that I thought was a bigger issue. Yes, that was Hasson Reddick. Well, what is the story with Hasson Reddick? We haven't heard much other than a story that ended up on Sports Illustrated just the other day that Reddick was seen at a youth camp wearing a Jets shirt, and a lot of people trying to speculate whether that means he is planning to end a supposed holdout or come into camp. We don't know, but the fact is, this is a player who the Jets traded for with the Eagles. He's a huge impact defensive end player who has had a number of great seasons compiled over the last several years of the Philadelphia Eagles and getting to the quarterback. And the Jets really need him in camp, badly need him in camp. He is going to be a big part of this defense, especially when you consider this team no longer has Bryce Huff on this team. They've made a couple of moves financially to try to keep Reddick on this roster with his current payroll situation, but he wants a contract extension. Right now, he is making about he's scheduled to make about $14.25 million. That's the base salary, which could be a cap hit of $15 million here this year. So he's got money to make. But as a free agent going into next season, he wants to cash in on a big deal. Do the Jets and Reddick finally come to terms? Do they find a way to make this happen in the next couple of days, if not weeks, and get him into camp? Because he is a huge part of what the Jets' plans are defensively here in 2024. The other big story, of course, going back to the offense, we all know that Aaron Rodgers' health is going to be imperative to this group. Well, the next biggest thing is going to be this offensive line and how it gels. Obviously, with all the moves the Jets have made in the offseason to improve their offensive line, bringing in Tyron Smith, bringing back Morgan Moses, you have you would hope a healthy Elijah Vera Tucker. You have Joe Tippmann now as your center. Joe Simpson also in there as well. John Simpson rather in there as well. Can this unit gel, and how quickly can they gel and come together? You also have the rookie Olaf Fasanu waiting in the wings for left tackle from Penn State, because protecting Aaron Rodgers is going to be the most important thing, and the most important thing that has to happen for the Jets to succeed this year is to protect him. That is that more than anything else. We could talk about receivers. We could talk about how the Jets are able to run the football with Breece Hall this year, and how much of a playmaker and how much more of a playmaker he'll be with Aaron Rodgers. All that is all predicated on how this offensive line gels, how they're able to protect the quarterback, and give Aaron Rodgers the ability to make plays the way we have seen him make plays for 18 years in his career with the Green Bay Packers. That, to me, even though I mentioned it here third, that may be the most important key here in training camp going into this season. And then, of course, another big story we talked about, a lot of people have been discussing the wide receiver position. The Jets obviously bring in Mike Williams from the Los Angeles Chargers, but he is going to start the year on the PUP list, physically unable to perform list, as he's still recovering from an knee injury from last year. And there's been all this speculation. What will happen? Do the Jets have to go out there and add another wide receiver? Of course, Davante Adams' name has come up a lot. Aaron Rodgers kind of alluded to, playing with Adams a little bit when he was out in Las Vegas on playing golf, and he said that he would like to play with Adams again. You had then Breece Hall go on a podcast and discuss, saying, "Hey, we wouldn't mind having Davante Adams in the clubhouse. He would be great." I don't know if that's considered tampering at all, but that idea has now been floated out there. Now, of course, to do that now would be ridiculous. The Raiders have shot that idea down. Adams' agent has shot that idea down, that he would be willing to seek a trade because the season hasn't started yet. So we're not going to see any kind of big time move for the Jets to give up a large amount of draft picks and maybe even a player to go get Davante Adams right now. This is a situation we're going to have to sit there for a while, maybe into October, before we know how that's going to play out towards the trade deadline. If the Jets are right there in the thick of things for the playoffs and an opportunity to make a run for the AFC East title, and the Raiders are out of it in the AFC West, and it's going to be hard for them to compete when you think about the situation out west with Kansas City still being the dominant team. The Chargers now with Jim Harbaugh. You would think that the Raiders may have a tougher time this year. If they're out of it, then maybe they would consider making a move, and maybe then you're not giving up as much. Of course, there's also the deferred money factor as well. I believe I read somewhere it was like 20 million, 15, 20 million, I believe. I would have to double check that, but there was a lot of deferred money in that as well, depending on when that, if a trade were made, what that cap number would be. So that's a possibility down the road, but the key right now is to see if the Jets can get Mike Williams healthy. And to be that number 2 receiver, we know when he is healthy, Mike Williams has a history of being a very good pass catcher. He has tremendous hands. He can catch the ball all over the field, in different parts of the field, sometimes some of the toughest corners, nooks and crannies on the sideline. He has had the ability to make those plays, and he would be a good complement to Garrett Wilson, who really deserves an opportunity for us to see how he can play with a top quarterback as a number 1 wide receiver, and he's going to get that opportunity more so this year than obviously he did last season. So those are some of the things that we're going to have to look forward to here this year. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers' health, this offensive line, the chemistry with this receiving core, and whether or not the Jets feel the need or will go out there and make a play for another weapon at wide receiver. And then, of course, Hasson Reddick. Can this guy and the Jets get on the same page and get that man into camp as we get ready for the 2024 season? Folks, it's here. It's hard to believe we have made it to the 2024 football season. Let's go. We'll talk to you next time.